What is up? What is up, YouTube? How y'all doing? Let me check my monitor real quick, man, because Jesus, I had so many interruptions. I am still out in the Philippines. It is dark outside. The whole family that went in, well, except for the brothers and sisters, they still packing up, y'all. My man packing up the guitars and everything. We starting a band in the Philippines, y'all. We got all these guitars, and we got to go pick up more guitars. We got to get a couple of monitors and everything, and we're gonna jam out a little bit, just a little bit. They can play. My family can play. They can play some instruments, man. They played a little bit. But anyway, check this out. I'm in the Philippines, like I said, and we doing some reactions. Dude, come on, man. The dogs around here look straight, man, but they looking for food because we was out here eating. So they looking for any type of leftover food. That's what they do. But P. Diddy accused of ordering the hit. What? We all know that. He was accused of ordering the hit. I told him to turn that mess off, but hey. Anyway, on Tupac, he ordered the hit on Tupac in Bombshells fouling. So somebody done fouled. Yeah, we were talking about Keefe D and everything. So y'all hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell, baby. Let's check this bad boy out.
Big developments in the case of Keefe D. Davis, the man accused of orchestrating the murder of rap icon Tupac Shakur back in the 1990s. All these years later, the former gang leader is behind bars in Las Vegas and is insisting the case be thrown out. And he is implicating another music legend who's making headlines, Sean Diddy Combs. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Keefe D. Davis is said to be behind one of the most infamous killings in history. Tupac Shakur, the 90s rap superstar, was gunned down while riding in a car with Suge Knight after the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. And over the years, there have been multiple investigations into Tupac Shakur's murder, but there has been one man who has seemed to implicate himself in the assassination again and again and again. Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D. By the way, spelled sometimes with two F's, sometimes with two E's, even sometimes with a Y. Gets a little bit confusing, but Keefe D. Now, Davis was reportedly the leader of a sect of the Crips street gang in Compton, California that dealt in drug sales and trafficking. Davis eventually did time in prison on drug charges in the late 90s, but since getting out, he has been more open about his apparent involvement in Shakur's death. Davis released his own tell-all book. It's called Compton Street Legend, Notorious Keefe D's street-level accounts of Tupac and Biggie murders, death row origins, Suge Knight, Puffy Combs, and crooked cops. And he started granting interviews with YouTubers who wanted the inside scoop on what happened on that night back in 1996 out in Las Vegas. So Davis and several members of his entourage apparently attended the Mike Tyson boxing fight. But afterward, in the casino, Shakur had attacked Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. The fight had apparently been sparked by a previous beef over an alleged stolen neck chain. So the men eventually separated. The two groups went on their way.
My bad, y'all. Did he just say a stolen neck chain? Is that what we calling it now? They got into a beef over a stolen neck chain. Listen to this shit. Oh my God.
Orlando Anderson. The fight had apparently been sparked by a previous beef over an alleged stolen neck chain. So the men eventually separated. The two groups went on their way.
Oh my God.
But Anderson, Davis, and others that were with them were reportedly still pretty heated over what had just happened. And later that night, allegedly, their plan was to target Shakur and Knight. And Knight, of course, is was the head of Death Row Records, as they were all stopped at a traffic light. This is what happened. Now, in an interview with the Art of Dialogue channel, Davis said he was in the front passenger seat that night with DeAndre Big Dre Smith and Anderson in the back seat of the rented Cadillac. And what happens next? Who fired the shots? Take a listen.
Dre, he was the one that was supposed to shoot, Tupac and Suge, but he got scared, right?
No, he didn't really get scared. He wasn't ready for that. They was youngsters, man. kids.
But once again, I mean, y'all Crips, right? So he should be used to that, right, Dre? So why was
He wasn't ready for that. Everybody got a role, man. Everybody
wasn't the
ain't killers. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't gonna kill.
So
everybody
Dre,
ain't
he
with
wasn't
that.
the shooter?
No.
Okay, so, but he was the one that was supposed to shoot up Tupac and Suge, but for some reason, he wasn't ready for it, so he gave the gun to Orlando, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And Orlando is the shooter. He's the known shooter. I mean, everybody know Orlando Anderson was a shooter. So Dre got cold feet. He didn't want to do it. He gave the gun to Orlando, and Orlando shot Tupac and Suge.
That's
He did
crazy.
his thing, yeah.
Now, let's be clear about something. Anderson has always denied that he was the killer. In fact, he died.
That's crazy, man. How you gonna sit there and, dude? This is the weirdest thing. This don't make any sense. You say Puffy was gonna pay y'all $1 million. You didn't get the money. You didn't even pull the trigger, but you in jail. I don't understand that.
Hey guys, Uncle Mike here with big news. YouTube has changed my life, and now it's your turn. See, Uncle Mike was tired of being broke after every payday. So I decided to do something about it. So I invested over about $9,000 in YouTube courses and online coaching. Man, I was determined to change. But guess what? None of these systems gave me the one-on-one coaching that I needed. So I created my own YouTube course with the help that you need to make sure that you succeed. If you're ready to learn and you're not afraid to put in the work, you too can make a real change. Sign up now and Uncle Mike will send you the 4 videos that got me started. 100% free. Click the word more below and look for our YouTube growth system. That's our course. Now, let's get back to this video.
Just a few years after Shakur in another shooting, the other men in the Cadillac, DeAndre Smith and the driver Terry Brown, they are also both dead. But Davis told a lot of this information to Los Angeles and Las Vegas investigators as well. And this is after he apparently became a confidential informant for a task force that was looking into the murder of Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls and the notorious B.I.G. By the way, we're about to talk about Diddy. We did a whole separate sidebar episode on how Sean Combs' former bodyguard came out recently, spoke on a documentary, and saying that Sean Combs could have been involved in the murder of Christopher Wallace. I encourage everybody to check it out if you're interested. But then going back to Tupac, we go to September of 2023. So this is 27 years after Shakur's death. And Davis was arrested near his home outside of Las Vegas and taken into custody. And since then, after he's been charged with the murder of Tupac Shakur, he and his legal team have been working to get him out of jail and to get his case thrown out. Now, we can say definitively he has lost both of those battles. He has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder. He's supposed to go to trial in March, but I want to explain a little bit more about this. So earlier this month, Davis's defense team filed a motion to dismiss the case. And as part of his argument, he is pointing the finger, seemingly, at Sean Diddy Combs as the one who really is responsible for Shakur's death. Yeah, this is one of those stories that we've been constantly trying to keep an eye out for, bring you updates as they develop. And for that, I gotta call out our amazing sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, because their support helps us to keep on doing this. But here's the deal. If you're injured, Morgan & Morgan, the exclusive personal injury law firm of law and crime, America's largest injury law firm, that may be who you want in your corner. You know why they have over 1,000 attorneys? Because they win a lot. In the past few months, Morgan & Morgan secured a $29 million verdict for a bicyclist in Philadelphia, a $2.7 million verdict for a car accident victim in Florida, and not to mention $5.6 million for a car crash victim in Georgia after insurance offered that client $0. And even if you think your case isn't worth millions of dollars, why not start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan, they make it so simple because you can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC sidebar. Now, at the time of Shakur's death, Combs was beginning his meteoric rise to the top of the rap world. He had started Bad Boy Records, now called Bad Boy Entertainment. And of course, there was this ongoing feud, West Coast versus East Coast, with this feud that he had with Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, again, the leader of Death Row. So I want to take a look at the legal arguments that Davis's team had in their filing. And it reads, Defendant Dwayne Keith Davis hereby files this motion to dismiss on the basis that the state of Nevada has failed to timely pursue these charges against Mr. Davis, failed to provide corroborating evidence to support Mr. Davis's coerced confession, and failed to honor the federal proffer agreement between Mr. Davis and the United States government, thus substantially impairing Mr. Davis's constitutional rights. So two big arguments here. One is that the government waited too long to file the murder case, 27 years. They claim that this was done maliciously. By the way, though, typically speaking, there are no statute of limitations for murder. But even if they had filed the charges sooner, this is Davis's other argument, Davis says he's immune from prosecution thanks to an agreement he had with investigators when he was hauled in to talk about Tupac Shakur's shooting. And listen, remember, Bill Cosby, we all remember what happened to him. His conviction for drugging and raping a woman was vacated because his due process rights were violated, since a former DA had in fact made an oral promise to Cosby that he wouldn't be prosecuted. And remember, Cosby relied on that promise to admit some incriminating things about that encounter. So a high court actually determined his conviction should be thrown out. But going back to this, the first big interview that was referenced in the filing is from a couple years after Tupac Shakur died. On July 16th, 1998, Mr. Davis was interviewed by Assistant United States Attorney Michael Terrell. Mr. Davis's attorney, Mr. 𝗟𝗚𝗡𝗞𝗦, was present. The interview was considered a proffer agreement between the United States government and Mr. Davis, under which any information provided by Mr. Davis would not be prosecuted related to that information. Mr. Davis was repeatedly questioned about the alleged murder of Tupac Shakur. Mr. Davis denied knowing who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis was asked to speculate as to who shot Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis stated it was the Compton Police Department under the direction of Suge Knight, owner of Death Row Records. Mr. Davis was asked what would be Mr. Knight's motive, and Mr. Davis responded Mr. Shakur was getting ready to leave working with Death Row Records. At no time during the interview, less than 2 years after Mr. Shakur's shooting, did Mr. Davis state that he or members of Southside Crips were involved in any manner with the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Okay, goes to an issue of credibility. Well, Davis says he was interviewed again in 1999, and during that meeting, he denied that his nephew Anderson was the shooter. Mr. Davis stated that Mr. Anderson was not involved in the shooting of Mr. Shakur. Mr. Davis did discuss that Mr. Anderson was attacked by Mr. Shakur in Las Vegas the night of Mr. Shakur's shooting. Nevertheless, the decision was made to retaliate in Compton since there were so many police around in Las Vegas during the Mike Tyson fight. And during that interview, Davis blamed Compton police for spreading the rumor that Anderson had shot Shakur, although later we know that Davis himself would say that in public statements. But the motion to dismiss also says that Davis was offered immunity during the Biggie Smalls investigation in the early 2000s. The filing reads, the 3 LAPD and FBI agents were part of a task force to solve the shooting of rapper Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie Smalls, legal name Christopher Wallace. The task force, through a sophisticated criminal investigation, obtained sufficient evidence that would prove Mr. Davis was the leader of the Southside Crips and his gang was responsible for over 360 kilos of cocaine and PCP. Mr. Davis provided 3 interviews to obtain immunity from prosecution. The final interview were solely questions regarding the Tupac Shakur shooting, which Mr. Davis was also provided immunity from prosecution. So during a December 2008 interview with investigators, that is when Davis allegedly started to spill the beans about his one-time friend, Sean Combs, who he refers to as Puffy. He claims Sean Puffy Combs solicited Mr. Davis to kill Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur for $1 million. Eric Zip Martin, an associate of Puffy Combs, provided Mr. Davis with a gun to exact revenge on Tupac Shakur for the beating Mr. Anderson received. Now, Davis reportedly told the investigators that even though the job had been partially completed and Shakur was killed, neither he nor Anderson ever got paid. He later revealed that he believes Combs had paid the go-between Zip Martin, who he claims kept the money for himself. And he said much of the same thing in a 2009 interview a year later, because according to the motion to dismiss, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, as far back as 2009, was in possession of the same set of facts that the Clark County District Attorney is now alleging makes Mr. Davis responsible for the murder of Tupac Shakur. The Clark County District Attorney's Office has offered no reason as to why it waited another 14 years to prosecute a case against Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis has been irreversibly prejudiced by this unnecessary delay in prosecution of this case, and Mr. Davis's constitutional rights have been violated in an extraordinary manner never before witnessed in the annals of the American criminal justice system. Now, of course, there was a response because the prosecutors from Las Vegas called out Davis for being, quite dramatic and said he has been telling on himself for decades. So their motion in opposition to the motion to dismiss states, in the years following Shakur's murder, defendant Dwayne Keefe D. Davis confessed to being involved in Shakur's murder in nearly every form imaginable. Defendant confessed to some of his role in Shakur's murder during an interview with 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦 Homicide in 2009. Defendant admitted to seeking a deadly confrontation with Knight and Shakur in interviews with the producers of the Death Row Chronicles in 2017. Defendant recounted his involvement in Shakur's murder in his book published in 2019. And defendant has gleefully claimed responsibility for the murder of Shakur in numerous YouTube interviews from 2019 up until his arrest. And the prosecution then addressed the issue of immunity from prosecution, right? Well, maybe he's admitting everything because, he thinks he's immune. They have a response to that. Quote, defendant asserts that he has received immunity from prosecution in this case. Defendant has provided absolutely no proof that transactional immunity was ever conveyed by any prosecuting authority. Defendant has provided no federal court order conveying immunity. Defendant has provided no California court order conveying immunity. However, even if he had such a grant, they couldn't possibly cover his criminal liability in Nevada. Defendant also claims that his proffer in 1998 and his statement to Detective Long somehow created immunity for the crime. As the court is aware, the legal community utilizes proffer to describe a contractual relationship between an interviewee and a prosecuting authority. In essence, a proffer agreement allows for statements made pursuant to the terms by the interviewee to not be used against that person. The state does not seek to utilize the 1998 proffer session against defendant and has no idea what the terms of such an agreement were between him and the federal government before he entered his plea. The report seems to reflect that this was a standard proffer where a criminal defendant is interviewed about his knowledge on all possible criminal subjects he may have information about before he's allowed to enter his plea. While he doesn't refer to the proffer agreement with the AUSA Searwright, the terms of that agreement are known. Defendant was specifically informed that this agreement was between him and the federal government. Moreover, the agreement is limited to a single date and time. It allows for the statements to be utilized on cross-examination of defendant if he ever testifies differently. Finally, the agreement is limited by its express terms. Nothing in that agreement suggests the defendant has immunity from any criminal charges. Notwithstanding, it appears to only apply by its express terms to an interview on December 1st, 2008. Certainly, defendant is free to litigate the admissibility of the December 18, 2008 statement. However, case law establishes that defendant's mistake of fact about its admissibility, particularly where he had a lawyer present who knows the specific terms of the agreement, would not lead to suppression of the statement, meaning it can't come into evidence. And on Tuesday, Clark County District Court Judge 𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗞𝗦 agreed with the prosecution, saying Davis has provided no proof that he had any immunity deals. And we're going to expect to hear in the next few days if Davis's legal team plans to appeal that decision to the state Supreme Court. Remember, going back to Cosby, it was the Pennsylvania Supreme Court who ultimately determined that his conviction should be vacated because he had entered into an immunity agreement. So we shall see what happens. But that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.
Man, forget all that. Forget all that. Forget all that. You mean to tell me, Keefe D, man, you got to be the dumbest hitman I ever know. I'm just gonna be real with you. Uncle Mike gonna be real, man, because you mean to tell me you and your boys allegedly put a hit out on somebody and you ain't get paid for it. You admitted you ain't get paid. One of your boys got paid, allegedly, but you ain't get paid. That's why you running around, running your mouth at all these daggone podcast people, getting them little pennies from them. Y'all, I'm gonna be honest with you. Probably make $5,000 an interview. Probably make $3,000 an interview. $2,000 if you're lucky. Drop down to $500 for an interview. These people ain't making no real bread, but they make a good ass living. $5,000. Imagine if you get $3,000 an interview and you do one interview a week. That's a good salary. You feel me? That's good salary money. You don't want to live like that. So Kei D was making some good salary money. Better than what's in the streets. You feel me? The streets and that street money hits every now and then when you move a key or two. When you do a hit on one person, you expect that pay. You expect that pay to pay off something, man. Come on, y'all, be smart. You don't get a hit every week, so you ain't making $1 million a week, allegedly. What you doing is you looking for a big score to retire. That's that retirement score. And your boy did a little quick one on you. They knew what kind of person you are. What kind of person straight up take the money and don't even pay you unless you a sucker in the street? Gotta be a dummy. He remind me of Courtney, y'all. He remind me of Courtney. You know why? Uh-oh, the dog's barking. Look. You got accused for a murder that you didn't even get paid for and you didn't even pull the trigger. What's your name in the streets? Look here, I'm gonna get on up out of here. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.